So we just record this meeting so that people can watch it that weren't able to join us today. I'm guessing we're probably going to have a relatively short call today, but today was mostly a sort of a bit of an updates call and a chance for anybody to um, give any updates from their sides and yeah, any thoughts or feedback or suggestions. So I hadn't issued a formal agenda. Ella's off this week as well. Um, but the few things that I had on my list to go through was just give you a little bit of an update on the white paper style report, the challenges and solutions roundtable write-up and where we are with that and next steps. Um, a little bit of an update on our strategy meeting for UKRET, our kind of all members meeting and what we're planning. So some plans really happening with that now. It's great that we've got you on, Claire, because I wanted to just mention to everybody about the upcoming Navigator Symposium in November. So you might be able to tell us a little bit about that. And then my other thing the last thing on my list was from last meeting, and we don't have anybody on from Drive UK, but we did have an action for all of us to give any feedback on the transition guide for Dravet syndrome about how we could adapt that or adopt that for other rare epilepsies. Um, and then I just kind of over to AOB if anybody else has other anything else. I'm very happy to take and discuss. Does that kind of sound okay? Great. Okay, so white paper style report. So I don't know if any of you are on. I'm thinking that those of you that are actually on the call right now were on the list of people through the review round. Um, so the report has been drafted. It's in its second round of draft. It's an 18-page report that has now been formatted very closely towards its final output. It's in final review or by all attendees that attended the solutions roundtable and also being circulated to people that only attended the challenges roundtable for any feedback on the actual sort of content and formatting, make sure that it makes sense and is legible and we've not missed any key points or anything. I must admit, I think Costello have done a fantastic job on it. So I hope everybody will be really, really pleased. It's got an awful lot in there. It pulls together lots of calls to action from the solutions that were suggested by everybody to all of the challenges that we face. So the review round is for people to review and feedback by the end of this week. And then it's back with Costello to do any final amends and updates. And then we should be in a position to publish. So I'm kind of hoping somewhere towards the end of the month, maybe. This may well be, if not slightly before, this may be available for everybody, which is very, very exciting. So it will be able to be shared with everybody, and then we will need to look at how we want to communicate some of that more widely beyond the network. And then I'm also talking still very much with Leslie at UCB, who you know have funded the work, to look at activities about how we can further disseminate this and really bring those calls to action to life, and get healthcare professionals and the PAGs involved in the stuff that we can all do to make some of these changes happen. So yeah, next steps, publication, beyond that, dissemination with a view to actually taking action and doing something about this. So exciting times ahead, I think. So yeah, watch out for that. We will let you know as soon as that's all available.
It,
Um,
just to say, Alison, it looks great. I only flicked through it quickly, but from what I've read so far, it looks really, really good. It's really nicely presented and clear. Um, so yeah, it's a great piece of work. And do let us know. I'm really happy to help with any of the kind of dissemination side of things. When it comes to that, we can always put some stuff out on social media and stuff like that. So
that'll be brilliant. Yeah, no, thank you for the feedback. That's yeah,
it looks
I
really good.
think they have done a really good job with what was some very rich material. They had an awful lot to work with. So to get that clearly and succinctly with key messages in 18 pages, I think is brilliant. Um, so yeah.
And I haven't seen it. I don't know if anyone else from Epilepsy Research Institute has, but I can let Ali and our external affairs team know it's coming. Is there a draft I can share, or some key messages, or anything, so that she knows kind of what the gist of it, to start thinking about how we can share it or when's most appropriate?
Yeah, so the draft that's just been circulated in the last week has only gone to those people that participated in the
Okay.
roundtables at this stage,
Okay.
but I can check with Costello if there's any reason why we couldn't share that draft, just as you say, to
Okay.
start to think about what
Yeah, I mean,
kind of
or when
stuff's
you're
in there.
ready, I guess it's just
Hmm.
something, I'm sure you will know with comms, it's helpful to get a heads up to see how we can put it into our schedule, our comms schedules.
Yeah,
But
no, that
whenever you can share, I'll make sure it's on their radar at least. And then when you are able to share something, let us know.
Yeah, no, it'd be brilliant. The more voices we can get behind this, absolutely the better. So really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll see if we can get something shared with you. There's sort of we had three themes from the challenges, or three themes that we explored, which was access to diagnosis, access to treatments, and then access to coordination of care. But in the solutions roundtable, what you'll see in the report is whilst we explored those key themes, there were overarching and crossover actions, cross-cutting, if you like. So there's actually five themes in terms of the solutions that cross-cut those, and there are actions for PAGs, there are actions for healthcare professionals, there are actions for families, and it's tabularized, is that word? And so it should be sort of fairly clear. Sorts of, it's really about, we tried to find pragmatic actions that could actually be taken, things that could be done, small things that could make a big difference. So yeah, oh, that's great. Fab. Um, I know Laura was having problems with her. So
Sorry,
I think she's back
I
with
am
us.
still
Yeah,
here. I'm just not going to turn my camera on because I think that might be the issue. It seems to freeze and then I get kicked out.
that's fine. Don't worry, that's fine. Um, great. Um, I am assuming, unless Laura and Mel have anything specific at this stage in terms of feedback on thoughts, they will let us know on that. So my next update point was on UKRET strategy meeting. I got a thumbs up from Mel, so fab. So we've been talking about this for a little while. Um, the idea of having a strategy meeting is we would like to have an in-person meeting of as many of the UKRET member representatives as we can, with a view to having that maybe as a hybrid for those that couldn't actually attend on the day, but very keen to get people to come together in person as a kind of one-off exercise, because I know lots of people never get to meet anybody else, and I think there'll be an awful lot of value. We want to bring everybody together to discuss the way forward with UKRET, all of the great ideas that we have, and to actually form a sort of 3 to 5 year strategy of activities, with a sort of to come out with some objectives of what we want to achieve in the next sort of immediate 12 month future. We are looking at maybe November to host the meeting. We're just pulling that together at the moment. We're seeking some sponsorship from Pharma to see if we can get the meeting paid for. We are looking at hosting the meeting in London, central London, or we have had an offer of a free room at Chalfont at the Epilepsy Society. But Ella was going to put out a quick poll to everybody to ask whether people would prefer a central London location or Chalfont, because we appreciate if people are going to travel in person, Chalfont's not always the easiest place to get to if you're traveling perhaps by public transport or whatever. So we wanted to gauge, what would be the preference of the majority to get a venue that most people could get to most easily. And we're thinking of a kind of a full day meeting with a half day before with our scientific advisory board. We would like as many of our scientific advisory board to also be available on the day to participate in some of the day as well, and participate in the discussions. And because of travel, and because we know that many of our members are located all around the country, that wherever we'd host such a meeting, some people will have to travel quite a distance if they would really like to come. So we are looking to see if we can get funding for an overnight, one night, the night before, hotel accommodation with a networking sort of little bit of dinner, and for people to really get to know each other and form those relationships, and learn from each other, which we know is hugely valuable. And then we can kick off first thing next morning and not finish too late so people can get back home. So that's the kind of outline that we're looking for that type of meeting. So do watch out for the poll in terms of preference for location, and I think we'll be trying to plump for as I say, a date in November, a weekday probably in November, to host that, bearing in mind that we will come to the Navigator Symposium, which is also in November as well. So Claire, yeah, go on.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Do you, how many people do you expect to attend? Because obviously we have spaces. So if Central London was the preferred venue, we can look into whether we could offer you a free room. It depends on the size. Our room is not, we have one room that would be possible. So it depends, but I can talk to you separately about it if you do find the preference is London.
Okay, great. No, that'd be great. Well, we're kind of thinking in terms of our budget to try and get some financial support. We're thinking maybe about 25 people, possibly in person, because I think we've got up to about 30 PAG groups in total. We know, not everybody, whenever we host, there will always be some people that wouldn't be able to attend, and we might be able to offer up to sort of 2 representatives per group. And obviously there might be, there'll be a few of our scientific board and our trustee board as well. So we're kind of thinking maybe about 25 people in person. So it wouldn't be a huge meeting.
That's maybe possible. I haven't been at the Epilepsy Research Institute long enough to know the capacity of our room, but we've definitely had around 20 in there since I've been here. So I'll let me find out if we've got capacity for that, and I'll get back to you separately. I guess I'm just thinking, based on what you said about the navigator, potentially doing it a day before or a day after would be not a bad idea, because people could then come to that and hear the talks.
Actually, that could be interesting because, as I said, we're thinking we should have a half day beforehand, or it could be after if it worked out better, with SAB, availability, to get them together in person and to really bash out some of the things that they can help us with strategically, and actually a carrot for them to actually be at the Navigator Symposium, and even potentially to bring in other healthcare professionals, researchers that would also be at this, that could, if we're going to talk about things like the calls to action from the white paper, we want healthcare professionals to be looking to see what they can do in their workspaces, and so it could be a really fantastic opportunity, couldn't it, to really grab a couple of extra people maybe that would be interested to join that discussion. And we do feel that actually having that healthcare professional element to it, as well as the PAG representative element to it, that helps us with the pharma support argument.
Yeah.
But we have had a couple of companies that have already kind of said to us, yeah, in principle, that sounds like something we would fund. So, we're kind of hoping. But yeah, maybe that could be an idea, that perhaps we ought to look around that date then. And if we could host, in central London, that might make best sense. Could be an
Seems like a
idea.
good idea to me, but obviously I don't know your network, and I don't know where they're located, and it might be that London's not the best option, but if you do your survey and it is, then I think that's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, well, we know people come from all over the country, and just thinking about, if people are traveling further, they may want to travel by train, and I guess the easiest place in the country probably to get to is probably London from as many directions. You could go for somewhere like Birmingham, but that may or may not be so easy to get to from other parts of the country, or Manchester, or I don't know. So that's kind of our thinking there. But yeah, no, let's try and find the best place, best time for everybody. Be brilliant, fab. Okay, I suppose that leads us a little bit more to Navigator Symposium. And I wonder, Claire, would you be able to kind of tell people a little bit about what the idea behind that is?
Yes, I've been planning it, so I've quickly called up the information. Someone in my team's been doing it. But the Epilepsy Research Institute holds Navigator Symposiums twice a year, and they're usually around 40 to 50 academics and healthcare professionals, often quite a lot of early career researchers. We tend to pick themes that are either particularly timely or opportunistic, or that have been flagged through our work as under-researched areas. So we've had a list of a number of topics, and rare epilepsies has been on the list for a while. So we're holding the next Navigator on the 25th of November. It will be in central London. At the moment, we haven't picked up. We're still exploring venues, because we have space downstairs that it's going to be too small. Sorry, it's going to be booked that day, and our own office isn't big enough. So, but it will be central London. So the topic is rare epilepsies, and let me just have a look, because I need to get a bit more of information. So they're always co-chaired by a kind of senior academic, and then one of our theme lead, early career researcher theme leads. So it's being co-chaired by Professor Kathy Abbott, and Dr. Marisol Sampredjo Castaneda, who's recently joined as our early career researcher theme lead for neurodevelopment. So they're leading it together. And so far, all I know is that we've got a keynote presentation from Andreas Brunkklaus from the University of Glasgow, and he'll be talking about antisense oligonucleotide therapies for Dravet, and the translational potential of that work. And I know that the other key part of the agenda that they wanted to hear about was an industry perspective. So I think we've invited through links with the academics, UCB and Angelini and someone else. Oh, it's not written down anywhere. Sorry, I've just been hearing this like updates. But we've invited a number of different industry people to come and do a panel. So not necessarily present in detail about their work, but talk about kind of the current challenges that from their side, and what the community could do to help with commercial, get commercial studies and commercial therapies through to market. That's all I know about it at the moment. Is that enough? Otherwise, I can try and find a bit more. But I should have prepared, but Laura's gone on annual leave, so I didn't get a latest from her just before she left.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I didn't issue an agenda, so I didn't prepare you for this. So no, thank you very much for doing that off the top of the your head, as it were. So that's brilliant. So I think the key message for people on the call and those that will receive the minutes and actions is save the date, 25th of November, because I am assuming PAG representatives will be able to attend from the rare epilepsies space, which I'm sure will be of interest to many of our members. I did actually go back to Laura Price, it was that sent me out a save the date and told me about this a little while back. And I haven't heard back from her, but I did say, whether there's any input or potential for collaboration from UKRET in terms of, adding to the agenda here, or anything that you might, whether you want, patient group perspective, whether we introduce UKRET, we can introduce UKRET formally. We're doing that at ILAE. Rhys Thomas has a slot at the forthcoming Bournemouth meeting where he'll be presenting, although part of it will be a video of probably me just saying who we are, what we do with UKRET, because I'm not allowed to be in the room. PAG reps are not allowed to be in the room, so I have to be on screen, which is a bit, that apparently it's ABPI code and the way that they run things.
It's farmer funded, and they'll have farm, yeah.
So, but we just want to kind of reach as many audiences as possible to know that, this network of the patient groups representing the rare epilepsies and being a navigator symposium on rare epilepsies, it would be really useful, I would have thought, for healthcare professionals, researchers, industry, all the sorts of, participants that will be in the audience, as it were, to know that there are all these different groups that they may not know exist within the UK, for example, representing the different rare epilepsies, and from the tiniest, newest groups to those that have been around for quite some time, that they may be much more familiar with, and that, how we very much want to work collectively, and, having, with the white paper, being published fairly soon, with the calls to action, it would be, we wanted to try and do something at ILAE, but it just didn't really look like we were able to pull it off. Maybe off the back of the Navigator Symposium, or, with maybe if we joined up our meeting, our strategy meeting with that, it could be a great opportunity. Part of the calls to action will be about who can we pull in to say, I'll be a champion for that in my area, and if that's a healthcare professional or a researcher that kind of says, well, do you know what? This has been done somewhere else in the country. I could see how that might work at my hospital, in my area. you know, I'm prepared to talk to my colleagues, whatever, you know, it's really getting, you know, getting that word out and getting people to say, I'll get on board with that. I could see how that would work in my area. Let's give that, you know, let's get behind this and work together. So I just wonder, you know, very open to, you know, we don't want to take over your symposium, but at the same time, it's about rare epilepsies. And one of the things that we always feel is, you know, hearing that about the plethora of rare epilepsies, you know, that there's so many of them, and yet we hear so little about them at epilepsy conferences and events. We hear about so few of them that get discussed and mentioned, and, you know, opportunity to really kind of somehow showcase some of the other ones that just never get talked about. Just
Sorry,
ideas off
I'm
the top of my
desperately trying to find the if there's a draft agenda, but I can't find it because I just don't quite know where they've got to with it. I think that I think it's a really good idea to try and use the opportunity to, you know, to share the white paper. I couldn't speak for, and I think probably the agenda, the last I heard, it was quite full. So I think there's probably not an opportunity to, you know, have a big launch of the white paper at the Navigator. But I think if we can find a way, you know, if you can do them in, if we can almost like co-advertise them and have them adjacent, I think that would be really beneficial for the reasons you've said. We are also seeking pharma sponsorship for the Navigator, and I'd need to look back then. I mean, it's not you. PAG representatives can be at pharma sponsored events, obviously, because you're considering pharma sponsorship for the strategy session. So I think it's just if they have exhibit stands or if they're actually promoting a product, which we wouldn't do, which we wouldn't, they wouldn't be having at the Navigator. So I think it would be fine, but I have to take, because I'm not so close to it, I have to take quite all this away and get back to you with a more informed view.
Yeah, no, it's the whole pharma sponsorship, pharma funding, because, you know, it's whether we can get sponsorship or grants from pharma. Because if, you know, the grant route is then we're doing educational, informational stuff, and they don't have stands and so on and so forth. But I think, you know, and there's lots of different interpretations I've seen at different events. Like, as PAG members, we can attend BPMA, we can have exhibition stands. We're usually shoved at one end of the room from the farmer stands, but to be honest, we still walk around, we still sit in all of the talks. Yeah, at ILAE, they take the completely different view. And to my mind, BPNA is just the the child version of the of the ILA, which is more where the adult neuros tend to attend. So it's interpretations, and sometimes we've been told to be kicked out of you know, the lunchtime farmer sponsored symposium
Yeah,
we're
those
talking
ones.
about, which is fine. But do you know what? In the rare disease space, we talk about nothing about us without us, and you know, if we're hearing about the latest treatments and developments, you know, we want to know about, we're professionals as PAG representatives. We're not coming as a patient ourselves or a parent carer. We're coming with our professional hat on as representing our community. And I think that's the difference there, isn't it? That, you know, we're not looking for personal advice. We're looking to partner. And, you
Yeah.
know, if we're talking about research, we should absolutely be partners in research and new therapeutic development or other research. And in terms of service delivery, in terms of the NHS, in terms of getting diagnoses faster, getting access to currently available treatments and the lottery and all of that, and getting the right coordinations of care, you know, that's all about we represent the people that experience that service delivery. And so we can bring the real world evidence to the table. So yeah, I just think there's a huge opportunity there to be part of stuff. So yeah, very, very happy to discuss what's possible, and I'm really interested to hear, uh, what what opportunities there are. So it'd be great. Keep us posted.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, Laura. I think Laura's away for the next 2 weeks, but when she's back, I'm sure it will be top of the agenda to finalize her agenda and get back to people. So I'll share some notes from this meeting and make sure it's on her radar. The conversation we've had.
Lovely. That would be great. Thank you. So last thing I had on my list was if anybody had provided any feedback on the Drave transition guide at all, to Claire or the others at Drave, or whether people, if they hadn't had an opportunity to feedback, have anything to sort of comment here.
Sorry, so that's really interesting because I actually didn't see a call for feedback, but we've recently done a study where we've essentially looked up all of the transition resources that exist. We created like a bespoke checklist in order to kind of quality rate them. So we looked at all the NHS trusts and all the transition resources across all the websites. And I'm sure that was one of the ones we looked at as a gold standard example of a transition guide. So I'll definitely follow up with Claire because that's really funny. I remember when we looked at it thinking how good it was.
Yeah, no, I must admit, I I read it through and thought, do you know what? If you just change the words Dravet syndrome to rare epilepsies, pretty much, you know, everything in there is so applicable to anybody with a rare. I think I could barely find anything that was Dravet specific, because even within Dravet, there's a spectrum of disorder, as there is in so many of the other rare epilepsies. So, but all of those resources, I could see through my own personal experience and all the families that I represent with Ring 20, for example, all of that I've had to navigate myself without any transition guide with my own son, who's 28. And into from child to adult services and everything. And I think it would be invaluable if we could have that somehow rebadged, rebranded.
Yeah.
But I don't know how we would go about that. I don't know if anybody else has got any thoughts on that. If anybody thought it was not, if there were any elements that weren't relevant to other rare epilepsies.
Sorry, this doesn't answer your question, Alison, but I think what was interesting was when we looked at the Dravet guide. So we created a bespoke checklist based off the bundle of care, and what the bundle of care says should be in a transition resource. And interestingly, in certain areas, it didn't score that highly because it was specific to Dravet, and the transition for someone with Dravet is different from someone with, say, easy to manage epilepsy. And so it kind of meets a different population need. But I definitely agree with what the kind of findings from the work that we did, that we're just looking at getting published now, but the kind of headline finding is that there were basically no transition resources. So I think it was like 5% of NHS trusts had a transition resource, which is crazy, right? So there's definitely a need for it. So we'd be really open to exploring how we might be able to kind of facilitate some of that, I think.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good points made, because you're absolutely right. And this is why I talk about it being relevant to rare epilepsies, which is usually the refractory epilepsies, or the and the epilepsies that have so many other comorbidities as well associated. So, things like, EHCP, CHC funding, applying for powers of attorney, all those, supported living, and all these different elements that you have to think about, where the epilepsy is not controlled, and there are the individual may not be able to advocate for themselves, and the family needs to seek support, whether that's financially, emotionally, through social services, and how you navigate all of that, as well as, moving up from pediatric to the adult neurologist, and all of that is hugely relevant. I mean, I ticked every one of those that I've been through with my son, with Ring 20. And he's mild to moderate, um, learning impairment. He's fairly, but he has seizures every day. But we're having to navigate all of this. And I've had to do all of that myself. So I would have loved to have had some kind of guide that could have helped me understand the different steps that I could have taken. So I'm sure if, so many other families would welcome that. Whereas if you've got very controlled epilepsy, some of the elements within this guide wouldn't be appropriate. An individual that, is pretty independent isn't going to think about trying to apply for CHC funding or supported living or those
Exactly.
sort of elements. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I'll reach out to Claire actually and just let her know that we looked at that as part of the review. But yeah, definitely something to think about. And once the findings of the research are published, I'll update you all so you can have a look. It's been actually a really interesting piece of work, I think.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see if you found anything that was missing, that came up from any other transition guide that was missing from the Dravet guide. I did think it was pretty comprehensive on my own experience. But yeah, what other resources? I mean, we were never given resources, and I'm not aware, when I talk to all of my other Ring 20 families, for example, that no other family has ever said to me, oh, I was able to refer to X or Y. So I think the resources are very scant and very scantily communicated to families.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
to be honest, that's what we found. That's the kind of overwhelming message, if I'm honest, is that there's just not enough of them. And they definitely don't cover. So while some resources are really good across the spectrum, there's real gaps, particularly if I'm honest with some of the NHS Trust resources, which really are essential because obviously every NHS Trust has a different process. So you need some local information as well as the kind of more general stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. We should definitely make a call for that it should be within the call to actions. I can't remember if that one was actually in there. I guess the postcode lottery concept that things are different in different areas definitely comes across from the white
Yeah,
paper.
absolutely.
But yeah, knowing how you navigate stuff in your own area is just crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I think if anybody hasn't fed back to Claire, please do feedback. And I think if Claire and Lara, yeah, you'll work together to see, what we could do then, what would be next steps once your review comes out, Lara, and yeah, how can we improve? I think there's a quick win here, isn't there? Somehow,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
to get something out. But I don't know what IP, if that would be the right term, there might be around the Dravet guide, or if we wanted to adapt something like that, or an existing resource where, how, I mean, I or somebody with Adobe could quite easily, within a couple of hours, edit this document. But that may not be allowable, for
Yeah, of
example.
course.
So I don't know, yeah, what hurdles we would need to go through to take an existing guide and get that out, for
Yeah.
lots of different people here. But it feels like something we ought to be able to do fairly quickly and fairly easily if we talk to the right people.
Yeah, of course. I have to admit, I'm not very savvy with kind of copyright and things like that. But I'll definitely reach out to Claire to have a kind of first conversation and then let you know when the review's published, and then happy to come and kind of talk about the findings here, and we can
Yeah,
have a kind of further discussion from that. Does that sound okay?
that sounds fab. Yeah, thanks, Laura.
Lovely.
That's great. So that was the end of my list of things. Did anybody have anything they wanted to bring up that we haven't discussed today that's worth sharing with the wider group? Laura?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, I've never used this headset before, so glad it worked. So I attended the Aspire Biosciences workshop in June, and one of the people that I met is with the Royal Veterinary College, which sounds a bit strange, but apparently they do lots of human work there as well. And it was tell me if you already know about this, by the way, so I don't need to repeat myself. So it was with a Dr. Claire Russell, who's a professor in developmental and translational neurobiology. And she was there looking for patient groups to try pregnenolone. I don't know if you've heard of that. Some people listening may have. So she's identified this drug called pregnenolone as a potential therapeutic for epilepsies. And so she wanted to, so basically she's looking for patient groups interested in testing it in their models of their disease. So not the humans, just animal models. I think she can't remember, to be honest, what she mentioned specifically, but I know like zebrafish are quite a good seizure model. So I don't know if anybody has those, but I meant to email you. So I thought, I haven't done it, I'll say it now. So Alison, if you want a bit more information on this, or to contact this professor directly. I haven't actually been in touch with her since the meeting. I did mention UKRET epilepsies. So yeah, let me know. I don't really know what the next steps would be, but obviously this, our group seems to be what she was looking for. So
Sounds interesting. Do please share some information, and if she wants to connect with groups that, because there are some groups that have animal models, there are others that don't. But we can certainly share, a link or contact information for, through the next UKRET bulletin or whatever, for people to get in contact with her. Yeah, that's a great way of sharing an opportunity.
okay, well, how about I email her and CC you in, Alison, as a kind of introduction, and then go from there.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Okay.
Claire.
Yeah, just to say, so Epilepsy Research Institute has something called the Hub, it's got about 700 researchers on it, and they often share requests to collaborate or things like that. So we could see if she wants to post on there that she's looking to test models, because academics that are on our hub that have got models might reach out to her directly.
Okay, yes, you might not be aware of that. So, okay, I will mention that.
Okay.
And it's interesting you've mentioned the hub, actually, because we've got at Ring 20 an open call that we've had out for the last couple of weeks. So we've made another open call for our Ring 20 research fund. So we're looking for a researcher or research team that we can provide some funding for to do some. And we asked Reese, but I know Reese is on holiday at the moment, because as patient groups, we have no access to the hub. And I did ask a couple of other members of our SAB, Ring 20 SAB, if they could put it up on the hub. But I haven't actually heard back from them. And I'm kind of conscious that I can't get this onto in front of the 600 epilepsy researchers who would be the sort of people.
Did you ask Laura? Did you ask, because we post stuff all the time? Did you didn't ask?
No.
Laura? Okay. Why don't you just pop an email to me and Laura? Laura's on leave for the next couple of weeks. I can't post on the hub, but Hannah in my team, someone in my team can, so we can just post it for you, no problem.
Okay,
Drop it in
lovely.
an email and copy me in, like what you want to be posted or whatever you sent to Reese, even you can just forward to me and we can put it up. It only be very quick.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. That'd be great. And it's good that you've mentioned the Aspire meeting. Did you find that useful, Laura?
Oh, yes. Yes, and I had Dr. Sam Amen with us, and he spent most of the time trying to persuade everybody we met to do more research into epilepsy. So you'll be pleased about that. So we tried with AstraZeneca, but then you probably know this, but they like epilepsy isn't part of their portfolio. But Sam really did try to persuade them that they were missing a trick there. So you never know. In the future, that might be. Yeah, so some of them it was not disappointing or even surprising, but like some just weren't interested. And I was obviously there advocating for CASC, but obviously if they weren't interested in CASC, we were also trying to talk about general epilepsies. But yeah, we had we had a positive outcome actually, although they haven't got back to us. But yeah, hopefully we might have a new therapeutic to try for our particular disorder, not to do with epilepsy. Yeah, and then I think the second best one was this lady at the RVC, which I thought might be interesting, if not for CAS, definitely for the wider, the wider group. So yeah, I recommend people applying and attending. It's a tiring day, but yeah, it was really good.
Oh, that sounds really positive, and thank you for advocating for the wider group. Were you there, Mel, at the last Aspire? I'm not sure. No,
No, I don't. Mel wasn't there.
she's saying no. I think she's been there
I
before.
can't. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't there. I've applied to do the next one though. So we'll
Is
see
it
if
the
we get
metabolic one or the next neuro?
metabolics. I think that one is.
Yeah.
But I think they're getting quite a few people applying now, so it's
starting to get more difficult. Yeah.
yeah. That's what.
We didn't get a UKRET place last time, even though we applied, but they have asked us to apply for the metabolic.
Okay.
But I was just trying to see if Felix, but I don't know if you've got Felix.
I have asked Felix.
That's what I was just because I'm thinking if we went to a metabolic one, if we get UKRET into a metabolic one, we need and
metabolic.
I don't know if Claire might be able to help us here. We're thinking about anybody. We need somebody that can talk about, metabolic epilepsies or metabolism potentially being associated with other epilepsies that haven't been categorized as specifically metabolic today, which is kind of where Felix's head is very much going, to see whether we could, Claire, I don't know if you know very much about the Aspire events, but in a nutshell,
No, I don't.
It's a very it's a long day of where about 10 patient groups and about 10 industry partners. You all present 5 minutes, lightning talk, present your case in the morning, and then in the afternoon you effectively speed date and see if you have something in common with each other that you can then take away from the day and develop for a partnership in some kind of research area. But the PAGs have to have at least one scientific or medical person representing with them. Mel, yeah.
So this was a question relating back to the hub with the Epilepsy Research Institute. Is that something, did you say then that like individual PAGs can apply if they've got some money for a grant funding? Could we all put it out on the hub with the Epilepsy Research Institute?
Yeah, so you mean you're calling for researchers to apply?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, would it be for like if we had a specific proposal in mind, or can you even go if you've got a set amount of money and just say, what would you like this is our disease area, this is what the focus is. We're looking also for some novel ideas to also invite new ways of thinking as well as the existing ones. Can it work both ways?
I think so. I think I know what you're asking. I mean, we share funding opportunities all the time. So that might be like, the government's got 2 million to spend here. Did you know? But we'd also that could be anything. So we could say this organisation's looking to fund research into this particular, whatever it is you're looking, So we use it just as a way to promote funding opportunities to researchers. We're in the process. So the hub has always been, and this is not announced yet, but the hub has always been kind of behind a protected wall with logins, and it's not used as much as we'd like. And what's used much more is the hub roundup. So every month we round up all the activity that's been added to the hub, and it just goes in a newsletter, and that's much more used. So we're actually in the process of moving it out of behind a kind of login system and having it on our website so that anyone can access it, and it'll be a newsletter, but we'll still have funding opportunities in the epilepsy space on a notice board. So absolutely, PAGs can just get in touch with us and say, could you put this funding opportunity on your notice board? Or if you're calling just for a scientific advisor in a particular area, you could put that up on as well, because we'll have job opportunities and volunteering opportunities as well. So yeah,
that's
absolutely.
good. So you could put a call out for a voluntary scientific advisor, because it's really good. I think when you're reviewing grants as well, it's really hard to get people that aren't involved in the grants or aren't direct competitors to view the grant application. So could you put something like that? Would be great. We're looking for scientists to potentially review or be involved in our charity and review grant applications. So you could use that sort of thing as well, where there's no funding involved.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're not particularly restrictive, and so at the moment we're in this transition. So for now, you'd have to email the team, and we can put it up on the relevant space in the hub. But in the next few months, I mean, still there'll be an internal process. People it won't be like a forum for everyone to chat, but it won't be in the login space. It will be on our website. So we're moving to that.
Thank you.
That sounds really positive. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was useful. Good, useful for you, Mel, and for others, I'm sure that are listening as well. Oh, that's fab. So we're almost bang on time. Is there anything else anybody wanted to say before we wrap up for today? Well, thank you all very much for your time in this in the summer. So thank you. As I say, I'll be sharing the recording and minutes and actions with everybody. And it sounds like we've got some stuff to look forward to in a few months' time. And any feedback on the network, any ideas, suggestions, really, really appreciate it. And if anybody can help out with the overall operational elements of the network, do please reach out to myself or to Ella, because we could super use a little bit more help. That'll be one of the things we'll talk a little bit more about on the strategy day. But we're all trying to run our own groups, as well as trying to run this network alongside, as well as everything else that we all do. So sometimes we don't feel we're making as much progress as we could be or should be with the network. And extra pairs of hands gratefully received. And I guess my last final comment to everybody that's listening, or as an action point, if you're still willing to make the voluntary donation towards the running costs of the network for the next year, and that you haven't made that payment, we very much be welcome to receive any of that money, because everything is being done for zero at this point in time, and we just need to cover a couple of basic costs off, really. So every few pounds helps, and if we all dip in as individual member groups, that's super appreciated. And thank you so much to those groups that have made a contribution to date. That's that's really gonna help and get us off the board to be more self-sustainable going forward, and look for some bigger funding to do more that we need to be out there doing. So thanks all so much, and enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your summers, and
Thank
speak to you
you.
all soon.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thanks, Alison.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.